got Ogabi, Bose, number 5 joining us for Global Business Report.
Yes, yes, sir. I thought you guys finished all the money.
Dinner. Naira.
No, I don't want to go to... Yeah, I'm just going to stay strictly on this side. I'm not going to Ibadan.
Naira.
Yeah.
Let's say Lagos.
Yes.
Let's keep it in Lagos. Let's keep it in Lagos. I don't want. Good morning, everyone. Good morning. It's good to be here. Oil prices were flat early Wednesday. Shifting trade, U.S. Policies fueled uncertainty while markets assess the potential impact of the U.S. China trade war on economic growth and energy demand. Brent crude dropped 1.02% to $64.01 per barrel by 0.622 GMT, while U.S. West Texas Intermediate crude was down 1.1% to $60.65. Both benchmarks fell about 0.3% on Tuesday. In stocks, Asia-Pacific markets traded mostly lower Wednesday after Wall Street declined overnight as investors assessed quarterly earnings while tariff worries continued to weigh on investor sentiment. Hong Kong's Hang Seng Index fell 2.41%. Japan's Nikkei 225 was down 1.3%. South Korea's Kospi was down almost by the same margin, and the Shanghai Stock Exchange was down 0.5%. In economic news, China's economy grew by a stronger than expected 5.4% in the first quarter, ended March despite major investment banks cutting the country's year growth projection due to the prospect of U.S. tariffs. Thanks to a broad policy stimulus effort, the first quarter GDP exceeded Reuters poll projections for a 5.1% year-on-year rise, extending a recovery that started back in late of 2024. Now, according to figures issued on Wednesday by the Office for National Statistics, the United Kingdom's annual inflation dropped to 2.6% in March, falling short of analyst predictions. In the 12 months leading up to the month of March, Reuters questioned economists who predicted the consumer price index would reach 2.7%. After skyrocketing to 3% in January, the rate of price increases in Britain fell to 2.8% in February. Now, according to the African Export-Import Bank, its net income for the fiscal year 2024 was $973.5 million. The Development Finance Bank claimed that this amounted to a 29% increase over 2023 figure. Afreximbank Communications and Events Manager Vincent Musumba made this announcement in a statement on the bank and its subsidiaries' consolidated financial statements for the fiscal year that concluded December 31st, 2024. Now, in spite of a challenging global economic environment characterized by geopolitical tensions, inflationary pressures, and high interest rates, Musumba said that the bank demonstrated solid financial performance. Now, the social media is being used by irate Nigerians or angry Nigerians to vent about being locked out of their accounts on the online financial platform CBEX. Videos of themselves sobbing have been shared online by people who expressed their worry that their money was lost and their inability to withdraw their assets. In the southwest city of Ibadan, some angry clients looted a CBEX office, removing chairs, air conditioners, solar panels. CBEX has not yet made any public remarks. The business had assured investors that their money would double each month. Nigeria is going through difficult economic times right now, and many people are looking desperately for ways to raise their income. So the Manufacturers Association of Nigeria said the 14% tariff imposed on Nigerian exports by the United States President Donald Trump will result in a loss of between 1 trillion and 2 trillion naira in Nigeria's agricultural exports to the North American country. The Director General of Manufacturers Association of Nigeria, Segun Ajayi-Kadri, disclosed the association's position in a statement yesterday titled "Man Position on the U.S. Tariff Hike on Nigerian Manufacturing Sector and the Broader Economy." Ajayi-Kadri stated that the reciprocal tariffs that could halt Nigeria's industrialization journey and transition from exporting raw commodities to semi-processed and finished goods. Now, Nigeria's headline inflation rate increased to 24.23% in March, according to the latest figures from the National Bureau of Statistics. That figure marked a significant rise from February, when inflation rate stood at 23.18%, reflecting mounting pressure on household incomes and the cost of living. A report by the Bureau of Statistics showed price rises for food and non-alcoholic beverages were the biggest contributor to annual inflation.
Thank you so much.
Let's have some inflation for breakfast.
I do not want to have inflation for breakfast. I have post-traumatic stress disorder from inflation because I've lived through Zimbabwean inflation, and when I hear the word inflation, I get cold shivers. Oh. So it's not something I enjoy. But looking at those numbers when they were dissected, food-driven inflation. So we're back here again, where they're saying food is the biggest driver. I looked at some of the breakdown to see Gary, was, one of the major contributors there in the price increases. I point out Gari. There was ginger as well. There were a number of other things, but I specifically point out Gari and Ofada rice. Ofada rice was also there as something that's that increased significantly in price, pushing that food inflation up, because these are the staples that people survive on. So if our staples, our bread and butter, the food that the common man is supposed to say that, okay, I just have small 500 naira, at least let me just manage Gari. If we're saying that that is being pushed up in price and is driving inflation, obviously there's a supply and demand issue there. You now look at what's happening in our breadbasket states, in Plateau State, in Benue State. I'm very concerned that where are we going with regards to food security in this country? It's very concerning. I remember at the beginning of the year, farmers did come out to raise alarm and say they're very worried about where we're going with food security this year. And it was brushed off, oh, they're just being alarmist. These farmers, that's how they behave. But it's planting season, and in the middle belt, they're not able to plant because they're under attack. We're supposed to be preparing, again, for wet season farming. Flooding is coming. We've had flood announcements this year. They're saying 35 states will be affected. So we have a serious problem on our hands with regards to food security. So these inflation numbers, yes, we've done the rebasing, no problem, but we've seen that the rebasing was not actually our problem, that there are fundamental issues that we cannot wish away with any economic equation. Security needs to be tackled, and of course all the other issues, the supply chain and so forth, that we normally discuss. Very quickly before I hand over to Rufai, China. Now, interesting numbers coming from China, especially given the developments. Of course, we're yet to see the real economic impact of the US tariffs, but what has piqued my interest is the developments with regards to a ban on ordering from Boeing and focusing on COMAC, which is the Chinese airline manufacturer. Now, this has been in the works for a long time. China has been working for a while to try and ensure that they wean themselves off of the dependence that they have on Boeing and on Airbus. So COMAC is already supplying aircrafts that fly Air China, I think Southeast Airlines as well. They fly regionally, domestically within China, and to Hong Kong as well, I believe, with the C919 jet. So we're already seeing that this is almost a moment that China has been preparing for all of their lives with regards to what the economy is capable of doing. COMAC has also just signed a deal with Vietnam as well. I believe Vietnam will be ordering from them. So with regards to China's economic prospects and how this tariff war is going to play out, this is a moment, it almost seems like they have been planning for this war all of their lives. Chinese manufacturers who normally manufacture for the luxury industry, this has been a big blowout on social media, by the way. They are now exposing all of their sources. So all the manufacturers for your Louis Vuitton, your Gucci and so forth are coming out to say, in fact, this is where all of your luxury goods are manufactured. We're more than ready to give it to you at the manufacturer's price. You don't need to go to Louis Vuitton anymore. Just come directly to us. It's a huge expose that's going. So now people are saying that, okay, so this is where it all comes from China at the end of the day. So I think that massive growth prospects coming for China, in my opinion, as a fallout of this tariff war. My take on that.
So a couple of things, and you were talking about the fallout of the tariff war. I mean, heck yeah, we did know before that everything was manufactured in China. It would be funny to think that almost nothing was manufactured in China. We knew it was China, countries like Vietnam, and other countries where they have cheap labor. Bangladesh. And the fact that the tariff war that Trump is trying to fight, he forgets the manufacturing jobs. Americans are not going to do manufacturing jobs again. Manufacturing jobs are not the high-end jobs.
No, they're not.
And there's no way you can compete. I'll give you an instance. Foxconn. At its height, Foxconn had 1 million members of staff on the manufacturing line. One company. 1 million members of staff on the manufacturing line doing shifts. Foxconn is a contract manufacturer. Your phones, your everything and everything, Foxconn. So how can you compete? You want to show me one American company that has 1 million members of staff on the rotor?
Had to come back.
You can't even compete because the manufacturing cost is way cheaper.
Down in Southeast Asia.
Oh yeah, Your minimum wage per hour in America is topping over $7. In Southeast Asia, with a good arrangement, you can get $2 to $3.
And you got the population.
And you have the population, so the marginal cost is cheaper.
Exactly.
So you can't even compete. And that's what the Americans knew in the 70s. If you read Phil Knight's book, the founder of Nike, in the early days, the shoe dog, in the early days, he was going out to Japan to manufacture. Then Japan was the manufacturing hub of the world. Till date, most of your shoes are still manufactured abroad and shipped back. In fact, that was one part I thought Nigeria should think of. Because if wage is low here, with devaluation of the dollar, rather than go to Asia, we are 6 hours away from Europe.
Rufai, I gave the suggestion last week and you told me I was mad. But anyway, go ahead.
No, but the problem is, I said we should think, but the problem is we don't have the infrastructural bill.
Yeah,
and that was the point I was making to the last week.
You can pull it.
You can pull the infrastructure.
Population that is not enhanced, is not empowered.
That's why we've not thought about it. You don't have the skill sets. You don't have the ground infrastructure. You don't have the power to be able to power it.
Neither did China at some point.
Oh, but they've scaled it.
Exactly. So it's an opportunity.
But Bangladesh has scaled it.
But even on the African continent, you've got it. You've got Morocco, for example.
Vimbai, the point I was making with you last week is, you forget that Bangladesh didn't start doing it today. They've been doing it for about 20 years.
Yeah, of course.
When is going to be the catch-up time? Trump, if he doesn't do it second time, he's out in 4 years. America will still balance out at some point. So when is going to be the catch-up time? Something they've been investing for over 20 years. Do you know when China joined WTO?
Oh dear.
2001. Where are we today? 2005. Knock on wood, 24 years down the line.
Yeah.
That's why I was against it. But these are the things we should have planned for before. A Chinese adage said the best time to plant a tree is 20 years ago. The second best time is now. So if we're going to start building this infrastructure, it's for the next 20 years or 30 or 40 years down the line when it's going to happen again like this. So that was why I was against that point of view last week, because we don't still have it. But I said, if we are thinking today, this is what we should be doing for the future.
Absolutely.
Exactly. Yeah.
Secondly, I'm happy we have all seen that inflation, by rebasing it, you can just only kick the can down the road. The problem is still evident, it's still visible.
No, the fundamentals haven't changed. The structural deficiencies.
Look at the bokos and the mango that you are looking at. That's the potato basket of Nigeria. And this has also swept into the problems we have today. Unemployment, the agricultural sector at an all-time low. And that's why we keep asking. The president said he injected some money into agriculture. Where is the reward? Because this government was so quick to tout their successes when food prices came down.
Uganda doing $1.5 billion last year in coffee export alone.
Yeah.
$1.5 billion.
So these are the things, and that's why we're saying, see, all of these things, we should also plan forward and look future forward. The other point I'm going to make is as regards manufacturing. The Trump tariff now is going to lose us about $2 trillion. Forex fluctuation in the space of 1 year lost us over $1 trillion in manufacturing capacity. Then the question is, what are we doing to hedge for the manufacturing companies? You were the one making a point that we are not giving a robust response to what was going on as regards the Trump tariff. Now the numbers are beginning to come out. I remember the argument, we should be safe. Crude oil was exempt and everything. But heck yeah, the manufacturers are now talking. I mean, those were the arguments last week. Oh, yeah, since it's just crude oil out of the 6 trillion, but the 2 trillion that the manufacturers are now losing in the little thing they still pack under the AGOA platform and export, it's a viable amount in this economy. Are we going to come back and at least build that infrastructure for them? We keep talking about AFCTA. It was some of the, what's they call the ideas we advanced forward. Have we even opened the gridlock for the AFCTA markets? I think there was an interview where Dangote was saying how difficult was it for him to sell his cement in Benin Republic here. All of those heavy lifting, government will have to sit in the room to do it. If we want to be able to compete with the likes of Bangladesh, we have to have electricity. Have we put power in place? Have we made these investments? Have we shunned insecurity? I would have thought that we should also be net exporter of power, for instance. But is there security? If you put all the solar panels you want to on a big expanse of land like Sambisa forest, are we assured of the security that will be there? So all of these begat questions, and all of this is I'm saying today, I will be delusional of invited to tell you that it can be done in the next 2-3 years. They are not low-hanging fruit. These are things over 20 years.
It takes a long-term plan.
It takes a long-term planning. Yeah. So I'm saying this for President Tinubu now, and successive leaders Nigeria will have, if we can tap into these ideas.
Very interesting.
Quickly before we go,
yes.
Gas. I want your take, actually, because I saw that the natural gas price is down as well. Of course, China has also stopped all of their shipments of gas from the United States, and I believe they've moved all of their contracts to Australia. That broke my heart because I was hoping Nigeria would have a seat at the table where that type of conversation would be happening to push up our gas.
The city is there, but we can't sit on it. And the reason was simple. When the Ukraine-Russia war came through 3 years or so ago, the German top officials were here. A couple of them were scrambling all over Africa. And they were looking, look, do you guys have what? Can you give us this gas now? They all came here.
No infrastructure.
But how much gas have we been able to deliver to them? So they're now scrambling elsewhere. Then, on top of that crisis of Russia-Ukraine war is the latest tariff war. So the Europeans are trying to solve their LPG, LNG, whatever gas problem by themselves because they know that we've not been able to put anything forward. You have the old Trans-Sahara gas pipeline. You have the one that has to go through Morocco, the one that goes through the sea all the way up there. All of these are plans that we're having on the table, but we're not getting the right investment in as quickly as needed as possible. So, and you have countries that are much, much closer to those destinations, Morocco, Libya, Egypt, the northern corridor of the continent that could provide gas. So, we're losing the what they call we're losing money on the table. We're not making the best of a good crisis. We've got crisis on top of crisis, which provides opportunity not just for Nigeria and for every African country to leverage. But unfortunately, we're not prepared. As you just rightly put it, with China. China knew someone is going to come in the White House one day and is going to say, hey, throw this out, throw this out, throw that out. And they prepare for it. What if he says, bring everything back in? What do we do? So they have the whole scenario under the table.
Yeah. Scenario planning.
so just whoever comes to the White House, you just bring it out and say,
China has something called the 100-year plan.
Absolutely.
They've planned all of this down for the next 100 years. There's a book about it.
So bring it on.
100-year plan.
Let's just start with 5 years. Maybe let's start there.
Fine.
Mr. B, the big beef, Mr. Bosin Omofaya, always enlightening being in conversation with you. Thank you so much.